I'd like to call, are you all set now? I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:30. Roll call, please.
Mr. Blackstock.
Here.
Mr. Horn.
Here.
Mr. Boda.
Here.
Mr. Simons.
Here.
Cram is here. Mr. Fitzsalis and Mr. Knotts are excused.
Herb, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I hit you. All right, moving on to approve the agenda. I'd like to make a couple corrections on the agenda. I'd like to move the audit from 4 up to 1. And I'd like to add sewer and water authority person to be appointed by the board.
That'll be number 7.
That'll be number 6.
I think oh, no, sorry, that was C6. I'll be quiet.
Okay, that'd be number 6. Anybody else have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, a motion to approve the agenda with corrections.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda with the 2 corrections.
Support.
Been moved and supported that we approve the agenda as presented. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the minutes of the June 1, 2015 meeting.
If there are no additions or deletions, corrections, make a motion that we pass the minutes for the June 1st, 2015 meeting. I'll support.
It's been moved and supported that we approve the minutes of June 1, 2015. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have public comment. Anybody in the audience that would like to speak out on anything that's not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have the C1, May 2015 Building Department Report. We have the C2, May 13, 2015 Park Commission Minutes. We have the C3, May 2015 Marine City Fire Report. We have the C4, May 7, 2015 Beautification Committee Minutes. C5, we have the June 3 Historical Commission Minutes. C6 is appoint deputy clerk. C7 is 2015 St. Clair Fire Report. C8 is the May 2015 Investment Income Report. I have a question on that, appoint the deputy clerk. Is that something you're just making in the consent agenda, or we have to vote on that, or that's just what you're
No, it's
doing?
just, I pick who I want. It's just a
Okay.
notification.
Okay, all right. So is there any questions on the consent agenda?
No, I don't have any.
If not, a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda for June 15, 2015.
I'll support.
Then moved and supported that we accept the consent agenda as reported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Moving on to disbursements, we have bills of $95,856.79. We have payroll of $24,587.50. We have ACH payments of $28,281.08 for a total disbursement of $148,725.37.
I'll make a motion, we pay the bills in the amount of $148,725.37.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported that we pay the bills. Is there any further discussion? We pay the bills in the sum of $148,725.37. Roll call, please.
Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
Mr. Boda.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Cram, yes. Mr. Simons?
Yes. Motion carries. Before I move on, we have our auditor in the audience. Do you have a copy of the minutes of our agenda?
I do.
Did you see on there where we're doing the checks?
I appreciate that. Yes, you're approving check numbers 28704 through 28749.
Right, and I have them right here.
Wonderful.
I looked at them prior to coming in here.
And they're available in case somebody else wants to look at
Yep, they're right here if anybody wants to see them.
them. That's great.
Okay, moving on to new business, the 2014 audit. Tammy from Stewart, Bovee, and Whipple, if you would go to the podium, please.
Good evening. I am Tammy Pitzer from Stewart, Bovee, and Whipple. I'm the senior auditor in charge of the East China Township audit. You should have got in your packets a burgundy, purple maroonish covered audit report. If you want to pull that out, we'll go through this, and if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me along the way. If we turn into page 1, it says the independent auditor's report. This is the only page in the financial statements that is on Stewart, Bovee, and Whipple's letterhead. This is your opinion on your audit, which once again is an unmodified or a clean opinion. This is the best type of opinion that a municipality could have. Pages 3 through 7 is your management discussion and analysis report. And what this is a snapshot of the township. It gives a lot of the important information, and it just kind of summarize it and bring it all to one spot for the reader. If they don't want to read through this entire financial statement, they can get a lot of the highlights of the township in this management discussion and analysis letter. This is required in order to get an unqualified or unmodified clean opinion. If you didn't have this, you wouldn't be able to get the clean opinion. Page 8, and we'll touch on this briefly. This is your statement of net position. What this report tells you is what the municipality would be worth if you looked at it in a commercial way. So 3/4 of the way down, the bottom of the page, a total net position, $15,559,783. And what this does is it brings in all of the assets from the municipality and all of the debt from the municipality and records it all in one spot on this statement of net position. So usually what we do is we like to look at the individual funds. That's where most people seem to be interested in how your funds did for the year. So I'm not really skipping anything. I just want to turn to page 13, and we'll start with the general fund. Page 13 is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. And this is as of December 31st, 2014. The first column is your general fund, and this shows all of your revenues, your expenditures, and other financing sources and uses. So you'll see for the year, your general fund ended with total revenues of $1,550,546. You had expenditures before any transfers out of $1,308,278. And then you transfer it out to other funds, $197,494, and took in $50. So at the end of the year, you had revenues over expenses of $44,824. The column next to that is your Township Capital Projects Fund. Once again, you'll see the total revenues of $335,656, opposed to the total expenditures of $71,559. And then you'll see transfers out to other funds. What that represents are items of equipment that were purchased through the Township Capital Projects Fund for actually the water and sewer funds, and that's the presentation that's required. It's expensed in this fund, but it has to be transferred over to the other fund so that it can be capitalized as an asset. It was bought on their behalf. So after everything was said and done, the Township Capital Projects Fund had revenues over expenses of $90,298. The next column is the 2013 Capital Improvement A Fund. Last year, these were new funds. You have a new bond issue, and you also were part of the State Revolving Loan Fund. And when those were started, we had to start a new capital projects fund for each. So we've got an A and a B, and then in the back you'll see corresponding debt funds that are A and B. So this fund took in $182,945, but it spent $960,024, which left revenues under expenditures of $777,079. But you took in bond proceeds, this was from the State Revolving Loan Fund, of $774,000. So in the end, this fund was expenses over revenues of $2,486. Any questions on any of that? Let's turn into, we'll keep going, we'll hit the other governmental funds because there's more summarized detail in the back. Pages 15 and 16 are the statement of net position for your water, sewer, and your internal service or DPW fund. Page 17 shows the activity for the year for those three funds. Very similar to what we just looked at. You'll see total operating revenues, operating expenses, and then non-operating revenues and expenses. Capital contributions, transfers in. So in the water fund for December 31st, 2014, and this includes depreciation, which depreciation is a book entry. It's not an expense paid out, but it's a required book entry. You had a change in net position or revenues over expenses in your water fund of $451,506. In the sewer fund, you had revenues, once again, over expenses of $814,432. And then your DPW or your internal service fund had revenues over expenses of $16,131. Any questions on any of that?
Well, depreciation, that really is, you have to figure it in there, but it shows us as a negative, but it's,
It's an estimate based on the usable life of an asset, how long you think you're going to have it, and it's depreciated on a straight line basis. So it's
over
required.
30 years or 20
Right,
years.
whatever you assign for the life of the asset, 15, 20, 30, depending on what type of an asset it is. So it's required that it's there, but it's not a cash outflow.
Okay.
Page 20 starts the notes to the financial statements. These will be very similar to what was included last year. I'll just go through these quickly. One of the things that I do want to point out is on page 27, top of the page, the very last paragraph of note 1. It talks about upcoming accounting pronouncements. This is referencing GASB 68, which will be applicable next year for the township. And what this will do, this will bring your unfunded pension liability or your unfunded MERS liability. You'll have to bring it in as a liability on your financial statements. Not just you, but everybody will. So this is going to be a big negative number to the financial statements. How much? Let's turn to page 39. When MERS does their actuarial reports, up until this point, they've always been a year behind because it takes a while to accumulate all the information and then actually do the actuarial studies. So this is as of December 31st of 2013. The bottom of the page, you'll see the 2013 line on page 39. The middle of that little section there that says unfunded actuarial accrued liability, or the UAAL. Next year, we're going to have to bring on at least $2,003,569 as a liability onto your books because that's your unfunded future pension liability. And then a couple of years from now, we're going to have to bring on your unfunded OPEB liability. But that's a couple of years down the road, so we don't have to worry about it. So don't be shocked next year when you see it's only going to be presented in the government-wide statements in the front, but you're going to see a negative balance in your fund balance because of that. Your net equity is going to decrease.
So we're in better shape on this one than we are the OPEB, right?
Well, the OPEB, you can
And
see
that's-
that on page 41. And once again, the standard for that isn't going to be applicable for another couple of years down the road. But when we need to bring that in, the middle of the page, you'll see the 12/31 of 2012, because that study doesn't need to be done but once every 3 years because you're less than 100 employees. So your study is being done under something called the alternative method. It's not a true actuarial study. So this is actually 2 years behind. But the estimate as of 12/31 of 2012, your unfunded liability is $2,366,007.
But I'm looking at the percentage of contribution.
Yeah, that's what it is.
You know, on the other one, we're close to 73%. Here, we're only 38, so. I mean,
Right.
We're not, but we are working on that. I mean, we're putting
You're putting $50,000 a year away
into that, yeah.
into that. And that's a lot more than some municipalities. Some municipalities aren't funding it at all. So you
So-
are a step ahead in that.
The one is next year, the 2 million?
Yeah.
Yep, the GASB 68, which requires the MERS unfunded liability to be brought in, will be the well, it's an estimate at this point, so that number's gonna change next year when they do their new actuarial study. But if we would've brought it in this year, it would've been $2,003,569.
Okay, so when you say next year, you mean 16
Yes,
is when it'll
December
go on?
31st of 2015, because this audit is as of December 31st of 2014.
Okay.
So when you have your next year's audit at the end of 15, that'll
Okay.
be required.
All right,
And it's basically like the depreciation, it's gonna be a number that's,
It is and it isn't. It's an unfunded liability, so ultimately it's gonna need to be paid, but if it's paid 20, 30, 40, however many years from now, when everybody retires, but it is a true number. It's an estimated number based on future retirements, but it is a liability that's gonna be owed at some point. And that's the whole thing. The GASB wanted everybody to know what that number is gonna be. It's always been out there, it's always been in the financial statements as a footnote, but now they wanna make a bigger statement to say, hey, you do owe this liability, so they're gonna put it in the financial statements just so that you can see what it does.
okay.
Page 27, note 2, talks about your budgetary compliance, and you only had a couple of small overages in your budget. As you know, you adopt a budget, and then you go through and you amend the budget. And these were a couple of overages in the budget, which actually is very good. They were very small, and there was only 2 of them. Page 28, note 3, is your deposit and investment note. This summarizes where your investments are: checking, savings, money market, investment trust fund, which is the money that you have set aside. Any questions on any of that?
They're catching up, or they didn't get the page number.
Oh, okay. And this is a pretty lengthy note, your deposit and investment note. It gives a lot of information on what your investments are invested in, whether it be equities or bond funds. Note number 6 is your interfund receivable, payable, and transfer. This is on page 32.
32.
What this note does is it summarizes which funds have transferred money back and forth, basically borrowing funds. You'll see that the Township Capital Projects Fund has lent $810,548 to the 2013 Capital Improvement Fund. This was as of December 31st. This was before you requested the state revolving loan proceeds. Once those were received, then that liability was paid back. On page 34, then the next page, your capital asset note. This just gives a little bit of detail of what capital assets the township has, and it shows the accumulated depreciation on those assets. On the next page, page 34, long-term liabilities, note number 8. This shows the liabilities of the township. It shows the bond that you received last year for the $465,000, your state revolving loan bonds of $830,459, your accrued vacation, your OPEB liability, the bonds that are out there through the St. Clair County DPW, a little bit left on an installment purchase contract. Pages 35 and 36 give you more detail about your long-term debt. This gives you an amortization schedule. It shows you the next how many years that you have to pay off the bonds. It shows you for 2015, 16, 17, 18, and so on, what your principal and your interest debt payments are, which is a useful tool for budgeting, so you have an idea of how much your debt payments are supposed to be.
That's for the B fund there? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes.
This is 465?
Yep. On page 35. And then on page 36 are the bonds that are through the DPW.
Oh, the other one, okay.
Yep.
Interest is going down.
How
Page,
come it doesn't show the interest on the B loan, the B fund?
there isn't an amortization schedule for it yet because you haven't drawn the total amount of the state revolving loan. The amount that you could draw was higher than the amount that you did draw.
Correct. 'cause
You
we
were
had-
eligible for 1,110,000, and as of this point, you'd only drawn 830.
Correct.
So until you either decide you're not going to draw the full amount, or you do draw, they're not going to give you a permanent amortization schedule. So that number is subject to change, that's why there isn't one in there.
Well, the reason for that is we found some stuff that we didn't have to do in the sewer plant, so it was a savings
Right,
by not borrowing the money.
which is a good
But
thing.
now we wish we could borrow the money because we got to do those RBCs, but you can't, those RBCs didn't qualify for when we submitted for this state revolving fund loan, so we got to do something else with that.
Page 37 and 38, note number 10, talks about your joint ventures. This is with the St. Clair Area Fire Authority and the Marine City Fire Authority. Talks about the contracts that you have with them to provide fire service. The next page, 39, we've already touched base on. This is your employee pension plan. This gives you information in regards to your MERS and your MERS liability, your contributions. For 2014, you paid into MERS $185,173 for pension expense. Page 40, note 12, is your other post-employment benefits. This is your OPEB, or your health insurance for your retirees. So it gives a little bit of detail on that. And then on page 42, note 14, talks about your principal taxpayer and utility customer, which is DTE. And we're just disclosing to the reader that they are a big share of your property taxes and of your wastewater treatment and your water purchases. Any questions on any of the notes?
Well, it looks like we're in pretty good shape.
You are. Page 43 is more information on the general fund. This shows your original budget, your amended budget, and your actual numbers. It shows where you came in accordance to your budgeted numbers. Pages 44 and 45 are the other governmental funds that I referred to earlier. This gives you detail of the other funds that we haven't talked about yet. This would be your building inspection fund, your township improvement fund, your capital improvement B fund, your two debt funds, 2013 A and B, and then your cemetery perpetual care fund. So if you turn the page one more time to 46 and 47, this will show you how each of those funds ended up for the year. Total revenues, total expenditures, your transfers in and transfer out. So your building inspection fund, you'll see you had revenues over expenses of $10,131. Your capital projects township improvement fund had revenues over expenses of $525. Your 2013 capital improvement B fund had expenses over revenues of $243,586, but that was planned because that was the $465,000 bond that you received the year before. So you had the cash and you just spent it this year. The 2013 and 14 debt funds, they captured tax millage for the first time this year. So the 2013 A bond fund had revenues over expenses of $140,474, and the 2013 B funds had revenues over expenses of $65,108.
And they balanced out.
They did. But you haven't started paying yet. The 2013 A bond fund, that's where you're accumulating the money to pay off the state revolving loan fund. You didn't make a payment in 2014 yet because it wasn't required, but I do believe you made one in April of 15 for $45,000, something like that. So that would be your first debt payment that would be truly on that bond. So those are the numbers for the financial statements. Any questions on any of that?
Well, the only thing it looks like we're behind on is retirement a little bit, but we're catching up on it.
And actually, you're not that far behind. You're within reason
Yeah,
with
okay.
other municipalities your size.
We've been putting money in there and we've been catching up on it.
Mm-hmm. And you are ahead on OPEB. A lot of places haven't started pre-funding their OPEB, where you've made a decision for the last several years to pre-fund at $50,000 a year. So that's a step in the right direction. In addition to the audited financial statement, you should have received 2 letters in your packet, one of them being the independent auditor's report. and the other one being the audit communication letter.
I had that laying out there. That's those two.
I don't know if you've had a chance to read these, if you want me to go through them or just answer questions. It's up to you.
What's your final say on this?
I'll go through them briefly. The first one is the independent auditor's report on internal control. And what this letter does is it tells you that we've gone through and we've identified a couple of either significant weaknesses or material weaknesses. The first one is something that was in the statements last year, and it's been in the statements for the last couple of years, and it's something that's really beyond your control. What it says is basically that you contract with Stewart Bovane Whipple to provide you with an audited set of financial statements, that you don't have anybody on staff that could pull the audit report together, both the numbers and the notes to the financial statements. And this says that you've just considered assuming the cost-benefit factor for doing that. The second finding that's in here are the cash accounts should be reconciled to the general ledger on a timely basis. That also is a repeat finding from last year. Your accounts are being reconciled to the bank, but they're being reconciled to what was manual ledger as opposed to the BS&A software general ledger. So we're saying really it should be you reconcile the bank account to the BS&A general ledger because that's the original set of books.
And we're working to correct that.
And then the next letter is the audit communication letter. What this letter does is it gives a little bit of information to the board. We're not required to come to an audit to present. We love coming to the board and presenting, but sometimes boards don't want us here. So if we're not there, this is just another form of communication with the board. It gives some of the highlights that we've already discussed. But it does talk about on attachment A some other items of suggestion or concern, improvements that we've found while we were doing the audit. The first one is once again a repeat finding from last year. The time cards and timesheets should be signed by the employees. This is primarily the DPW employees. They should be signing their timesheets. I know that the supervisor is signing them, but the employees themselves aren't taking responsibility in signing them. At least the ones that we looked at, they weren't. So if somebody could just double check that to make sure that they're signing them, to make sure that.
I've already addressed that, and we are going to, I pretty much said, if you don't sign your card, you're not gonna get paid, so.
That's a good way of doing it.
That should change things.
I'm sure it will. The next one is a new finding this year. It's something that we did as an extra procedure. We always, during the audit, tried to change things up and look at things differently from one year to the next. This year, we decided to look at the performance bonds. Currently, there's an Excel spreadsheet that's being maintained of the performance bonds liability, and that does agree to the BS&A general ledger, but BS&A software has the ability to print reports from the BS&A software, and those numbers don't match to the Excel spreadsheet. So what we're doing is somebody could take a look at both of them, compare them, and go back and figure out which one's right, basically, if the Excel spreadsheet is correct or if the BS&A software amounts are correct. Some of the amounts are old and outstanding too, so should they be forfeited or should they actually be paid back? So just a little bit of investigative work to try to get the two reports to match. And then the third one really is no big deal, but I don't think anybody's looked at the capital assets ledger, or actually the detail to all of your fixed assets in a couple of years. So what we're recommending is, before the deputy clerk would always put it together, but now we're saying, could somebody in each department, the department supervisor, take a look at their own individual section just to make sure that they agree that, oh, we didn't, we disposed of this backhoe 2 years ago and it's still in the fixed asset ledger, just to make sure that that ledger is current and up to date. And that's what's in the two letters.
I'd like to step back to the letter from, of our internal control.
Mm-hmm.
In paragraph number 2 and number 3, the last sentence, and you're talking about paragraph 2, you're talking about identified deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be a material weakness and a significant deficiency.
Yes.
Is that being addressed now? Being addressed?
Would that be what? I'm sorry.
Is it being addressed at this time?
Well, like I mentioned, the first one is very common in municipalities. I'd say probably 95% of the municipalities that we audit we put this material weakness in there because we're pretty much required to, and that's that you're contracting with us to prepare the financial statements. So that one, unless you want to hire somebody on staff that has the capability of putting the audit together, both the numbers and the notes, keeping up with all the current auditing standards, that one I think has been decided that it's not cost beneficial to do that. But the next one definitely, I feel, has been addressed. I don't think we're using the
Is the
manual.
internal control to be a material weakness? Paragraph 3, last sentence.
Yes, that 2014-01 is the material weakness that it's referring to. And that's relying on us as auditors to draft the financial statements.
Okay, thank you.
But the next item, which is considered a significant deficiency, is the one that I believe we're no longer reconciling to the manual ledger, that we're going to reconcile the bank statements to the BSNA reports.
Correct.
So that one has been addressed.
We just don't like to hear that word deficiency.
No. And unfortunately, there's no way of getting around it. That's kind of like the terminology that's required, so we couldn't soften it any. That's just the way that the letter has to read. Any other questions, thoughts, comments?
Well, I just want to thank you guys for all your hard work, and I know you guys were here and going through stuff, and so I just really appreciate that you were able to
Well, thank you.
get through it all and get us the numbers we needed.
Well, we worked together and got it done, so that was good. We had a few hiccups along the way, but
This also has to be filed by June 30th, right?
it does. If it does get approved at tonight's board meeting, my office manager has the information already in the computer, and now that I'm taking the qualifying statement approved by you back to the office, she'll press the button tomorrow and send it all off to the state. But it is required, you're right, to be filed by June 30th with the Department of Treasury.
Does anybody else have any other questions for? So our next step is to make a motion to approve the audit.
So move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we accept the audit from Stewart, Bove, and Whipple. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much, Tammy, you did a great job.
Thank
They-
you.
Thank
They
you.
had a roll call next to that, but we're not spending any money, right? So we
We're
don't.
just approving it.
Okay. Thank you, Tammy.
Okay, moving on to non-union wage increase effective July 1. I was asked by the non-union workers, the union workers on July 1 are going to get a 25-cent raise. It's been normally that we give the non-union people the same raise.
Going like that for years.
Yep, so if somebody wants to make a motion to do that, we can do that, and we can roll call it.
I'll make that motion.
All right,
I'll support.
it's been moved and supported that we give the non-union wage increase to the non-union, or the union wage increase to the non-union employees effective July 1, 2015. Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Boda,
Yes.
Mr. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
Mr. Simons,
Yes.
Cram, yes.
Motion passes. All right, next, under new business, we have the water plant staffing. For any of you that don't know Dwayne Loper, he is our new water superintendent. I asked him to come here so everybody could meet him and see who he is and put a face with the name if you don't know him. The thing is, we had Mr. McLeod, Mike McLeod, retired. Dwayne took his spot. Now we have the opening that Wayne left. According to the union contract, I posted it for 5 days. We had 2 people bid on it. We interviewed Mr. Loper, Mr. McLeod, and myself, and the person that we chose, we want to put into that position. The man's name is Mike Schneider. He was the one that they wanted to go there. He was the committee's choice, so. I'm asking to put Mike Schneider in the water plant, and then when that happens, we're gonna have a vacancy in the DPW, which will have to be posted for 5 days. So, that's what we got. Open for discussion.
I thought
Mr.
yours,
Vogt.
I
No
thought
way
years ago.
he be transferred from DPW to the water plant. I want him to stay in a DPW instead of jumping different job descriptions. I want him to sit in a DPW and have to get up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning or a 10-degree night and go dig a water line up. As far as I'm concerned, he should stay in a DPW where he's at.
That's the way I feel. I've been watching a lot of the jobs that they've done, and the biggest job they had was right down here in this water line down by the bridge. And I stayed there for 4 to 6 hours observing, not knowing that Larry had to call in the guy from Marine City to get the license because Mike pulled his from the township. And I stayed there till it was almost dark.
The reason
And
that
the
Mike
last-
pulled his license, let me explain that first. We had, when Mr. Merrill retired, we did a job search. We picked a candidate. Mike Schneider filled that job until we picked a candidate. We called that candidate, he kind of hemmed-hawed around, and finally he said no. You know, when I told Mike Schneider that he wasn't the selection, I was calling the other guy, and at that time he says, well, then you don't need me. You don't need my license, you got a license. Well, then the guy didn't take it. He backed out. So then we went back to Mr. Schneider and asked him to take it, and he did take it.
Well, that
He's
license,
a cancer, any
that
department he
license,
goes
the
to.
township paid for that license that he got. That Mike Snyder got, the township paid for that. And he should have never, ever pulled it from the township.
Okay, well,
But I observed, I felt sorry for, I can't think of his, Blaine. Blaine was down in that hole in the mud, helping that poor guy working from the bridge for hours, trying to put that compression fitting on that pipe so we could have the water turned on for everybody on the north side of, finally, on the last hookup to the water, he jumped in there and helped him. He stood up there on the top all that time, never done a thing.
okay. What's your pleasure then? Mr. Blackstock?
I didn't see the qualification requirements. What were they for that position? Are there any licenses required for that position?
There are. In the posting, as it was put, they either needed to have the F4, which is the minimum licensing to run a water plant, or the ability to get one within a year of being appointed into the position. Mr. Schneider has passed the written part of the F4 testing and is waiting to take his lab portion. So if he were to pass that, he has all the qualifications other than just training to run the plant day to day. There would be no other training that would be needed. So it would be a fairly seamless. And those are things he had done prior to the posting.
Well, who was the other person?
Glenn Van
Van
Dries.
Dries?
Yes.
Now, does he have the license?
No.
Sir.
I hate to see him go in there because I don't know what else he's gonna do. If he pulled his license on the township, I'm afraid he could do something else to us. That's my opinion.
Well, he'll work in there until he's tired of that, then he'll look for another department to work on like usual.
I think they should leave him right in the DPW, so we can keep an eye on him.
Well, personally, my opinion is they had a committee, they met with the candidates, they interviewed them both. At the time that it was happening, the current supervisor of the plant, the new supervisor of the plant were involved in the decision, and I don't see any sense in bucking their decision. They have to work with him.
Well, if you remember, they had a committee also when they were getting a new supervisor for the DPW. Ralph, Larry, myself. And they were hell-bent on the election, and they were gonna get Snyder in there as supervisor. And I simply told them, I got outvoted, I told them it's gonna come back and bite you. Exactly what it did. How long was he in there, and he had enough of that, they wanted to run off to a different department. Put me back in as the employee rather than supervisor. That's all he does. Jump from one. That's all that guy's good for.
Is there a trial period for this position? I mean, as much as I hate to say it, that bothered me as well. The fact that we put him in that position, in a management position. I know this isn't a management position, but it is. You're still managing the plant
Well, he'd be
in
running
your
the shift.
absence.
Yes, he will be responsible.
He'll be working under
Dwayne,
Dwayne.
But when you're not there,
It's like we worried
Yes, he
him
would
again.
be-
he would be managing that
Yeah.
facility.
Yeah, it's
Is
not-
this going to be another issue again? If he
Yeah,
couldn't
to-
manage the DPW?
To me, it's like we're worried him now, and then something's gonna happen again. That's all that guy does. Keep
so
him
what
in
are
a-
your suggestions
keep-
you do? in the
Keep him in
plant?
a DPW and hope that during the wintertime when it's 5 below, he can get a call at 2 o'clock in the
That's not
morning.
solving our problem with the
No.
water. I'm asking you,
No.
what do we do in the water department? We paid 30 hours of overtime last week in the water department. Why we're
Find a
waiting?
new person, that's what we normally
Why
do.
don't we give the other one a chance to get his license? Does he want to get his license? Glenn?
He expressed interest, only if awarded the job.
Well, at
He
least he
expressed,
wants,
I'm sorry.
at least he wants to get in there anyhow.
He expressed what? Oh,
He
I'm sorry.
expressed interest in training and receiving certification, only if awarded the position.
Could we put him in there for a 90-day trial or something, give him time to get a license? Or no?
As the board, these decisions are up to you. Contractually, there is a 30-day probationary period, and we can extend it another 30 days. It would probably be upon my recommendation if there were questions. But as far as an appointment, I sat on the committee of the two people. The candidate that's presented to you was the better choice. I wouldn't talk about reasoning in open session, that some things are private, but
I'm just afraid that he gets in there, he's gonna give you a problem, and then we're gonna have another problem.
well, rest assured, if somebody on a trial period gave me problems, it would be my recommendation to have them
Well, that
put
should,
back to their other position.
that should be.
Well, if I agree with what Dee said, in terms of the committee approved, that's their choice. We take the committee at their word, but I guess my question is, what if this comes back and happens again? Is he going to be able to go back to that DPW position if he changes his mind 30 days later?
We're a union shop. He got to do it the
We
last
have a
time.
union contract.
Right.
He's changed
So
his
this-
mind 2 or 3
What
times.
does the union contract say, Dwayne?
It's not in front of me, I would like to refer to it, but I'm pretty sure that the employee has 30 days to decide if they want the job. We have 60 to decide if we want them in the position. If they decide in 30, they want to stay, they're locked in. I think in the next 30, we say, this isn't working, you gotta go. I'm not a labor lawyer, and I don't
I
know
don't
what the
expect that.
repercussions would be.
Is it mandatory that we give it to the senior qualified person as per the contract?
I'd like to refer to the contract if I could.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we would have to know if we have to do it if we're contractually obligated to do it, then I would say we have to do it. But if we're not contractually obligated, then I guess we can do what we want to do.
You said you had 2 people apply.
We did.
Who's the second one?
Glenn Van Der Esch.
Do you need the other hand right away? Could we,
We are at an operational disadvantage. In the current situation, very minimal maintenance is being performed.
'cause I'd like to see a full board vote on it myself.
The
Well,
decision-
all right, we've already postponed it one meeting because we were gonna wait for a board, and now we're actually too short this time. Well, we were too short last time, we're too short again, and we're racking up 30 hours per pay,
But we'd be paying somebody anyway, so really.
right, but
we're
not
only losing-
overtime,
Well, the time and a half is what we're losing.
right.
The
So
half.
you're actually only paying 15 hours.
And I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a full board at the next meeting.
I've seen him for quite some time, because I get around the township probably more than anybody. And he doesn't have too much ambition.
My bigger concern is that that position is filled. We're already at a disadvantage for our DPW in terms of staffing.
Wherever we fill it, we're gonna be at a disadvantage.
Well, the issue is we bring someone else on the DPW, and then things change 30 days later,
And then he wants back in there.
then what do we do? We're back to either being overstaffed.
Yeah, he's flip-flopped back and forth quite a few times here on us.
Okay, I guess we should table this to our next meeting. I mean, that's my opinion, until we have a full board. And we have two board members that are quite strongly speaking on this subject. I mean, is this gonna be doable for you, Dwayne?
It's been our history to do whatever it takes to provide a quality product to our.
We want to get you the best person that we can in there.
It's sometimes to the detriment of the operators. I just had a guy work,
12 days in a row.
11 days in a row, 10 hours a day. He's up at 4 o'clock every morning. At some point, fatigue does become a factor in your decision-making. So, again, we'll do the best we can, and we've always met the standards. You know, I would expect that to not change. We'll do what has to be done to make the water work. An expedition, a quick decision.
Well, I would like to know contractually, I mean, I should have looked at that. I read it over quickly, but I would want to get an opinion. Because there's no sense in doing something that we're going to have to just turn around and do it the other way in the beginning, in the end. And Herb's got some good points, Dee does too.
I'd like to see Glenn go after his license now.
If I could recommend maybe a 5-minute recess to refer to the contract, if you have one readily available.
Yeah, I can run and get it. Do you want to recess for a minute and read it, or do you want to have a full board?
I'd
Well,
like,
we have no guarantee that we're gonna have a full board at the next meeting, and we're 3 weeks out.
Why are you in such a great, big, huge hurry?
Because
Get this
why
done.
do I want to penalize the workers that we have that are doing a good
You're
job?
not paying for one meeting, you're not
I
penalizing.
don't think you're
No,
penalizing them.
we didn't have anybody at the last meeting either.
I don't think you're penalizing them. They're still getting paid. They're getting extra pay for it, so it's not really a penalize.
Do you feel you can man the water plant for 2
Yes.
more weeks?
Yes.
All right, somebody's gonna have to make a motion now.
I'll make a motion, we table this till the next meeting.
I'll support.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we table the water plant staffing. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to healthcare insurance for non-union retirees. I put a copy before you. As you know, our non-union people are not covered underneath the union policy when they retire, and we had a non-union person retire, Sharon McCullough. This is what came up with working with Cornerstone, approved by our attorney. I'm asking for the adoption of it.
Well, we gotta do something for Sharon.
Well, we all agreed at the last meeting that we would do something for the non-union people. And these maximums are, what we're going to do with Sharon, she'll be on COBRA just about up till she's 65, and then she'll go on to Medicare, and then we pay 50% of the secondary coverage up to $200 a month. So,
Well, if you need a motion on that, we gotta do something. I'll make the motion that we go ahead with this,
to adopt it,
to adopt this, what Larry brought out to us. And then when she gets on Medicare, it drops down to 200.
I'll support.
We have to support her.
right. All right, it's been moved and supported that we adopt this healthcare policy in our policy book. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
Mr. Boda.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Cram, yes. Mr. Simons.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, moving on to the FOIA requirements. You have that in your packet. It's the one with the paperclip
It's
around
quite
it.
lengthy.
And this is the new state laws that they take effect July 1, and we have to adopt these procedures and guidelines. They talked a lot about this FOIA stuff at the convention that I went to in January?
Yes, I think it
January,
was.
yeah. So we knew it was coming, and most of the stuff is from the MTA. So we've been trying to get up to speed on it. The attorneys, our attorney, Mr. Zick, is really up to speed on it. He actually presented the FOIA thing at the supervisors meeting, several months ago. So, Dee, do you have anything to add to this?
No,
procedures?
Sandy put these together, going through the packets. They actually sent us the packets from the MTA. You had to just actually add the East China into the spaces where it needed to be filled in. This is what MTA is recommending. You have to have specific fees listed so that you're covered in case of if somebody comes and wants something, and especially if they're asking for something big or lengthy. It's to cover us for all the fees that you're only allowed to charge specific fees if you have this paperwork in hand. So that, and it's July 1st is when the law takes effect.
Has a time limit, you had 10 days before, has that changed in this one?
No, none of the rules about how long you have to respond. What's in here that makes a difference is if it isn't physically possible to get what they need in that time limit, if it's something that, you have to get from storage and have pages and pages made so this is more of a covering yourself for monetarily
Reimbursement.
fees and
But the
to get
time-
reimbursed.
The time limit, I believe, in the old one was 10 days that you had to get the information to them.
Yeah, and the other thing, was if this is really detailed, it could take longer than that.
Well, that's right,
But
that's
I
what I'm
think it
saying.
says we have the right to charge
If
them
there's no
the
time
lowest
limit on this one, you
employee
don't know.
Correct, the wages
the
plus any
wages of the lowest
fringes.
employee in the office. To pull all this stuff out, because you have
That
to go
takes
through
time,
boxes and
yes, I
boxes
know
and
it does.
boxes. We've been quite fortunate, we haven't had no super big FOIA requests, but I talked to other township supervisors, and some of them have like $20,000 it's cost them to get all this FOIA stuff, and they can only recover a very small portion of it. This helps us recover.
Because you're limited to the amount you can charge them.
Right, well, that's what this takes care of. It's state regulated, the fees that you can charge, and you have to have this in order to be able to do that.
Before, I didn't think you could charge them at all you could charge them for the printing per page, and that was it. This has gotta have a lot of change in it. I never went through it, so it's gotta have a lot of changes in it.
So I guess we're asking for
Just need this
a
approved.
motion
Yes.
to adopt the FOIA
we
procedures and guidelines.
We almost have to, because it's something coming from the state, so I'll make that a motion, we adopt it.
I'll support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported that we adopt the new FOIA procedures and guidelines. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have item 6, which is the Sewer and Water Authority. Sharon McCullough has retired. She was the person that we appointed from the township offices to be on the Sewer and Water Authority board.
Secretary is there one?
You know, she was secretary, and I talked to, Bob Allen called, and we kind of think we should have somebody that's, you know, in the office, because we do the agenda here, and the, would be Mr. Loper and Dion, they come in, and if they have something, they would come to that person to get it on the agenda. It just makes sense.
So you
that we-
don't want
Does
you don't
Chi-
want a resident.
We could have a
we use
resident if, but, you know, they're not gonna, if they
I
want to
don't
do
know
it.
of anybody.
No, I don't know of anybody.
Does China have someone they can send, because they're part of it?
No, well, that, according to the bylaws, it's 3 and 1. So we have to have somebody from our side.
Okay.
Um,
And they would automatically become the secretary?
No.
Or would
No,
that be
no,
voted
no,
on by
no,
that new?
no.
okay.
Not automatically become the
No,
secretary.
the
More or
Sewer and
less-
Water Authority would have to
It's more or less
have
like
a
the
new
minutes.
election for.
Okay.
for
What is your
officers.
feelings on it? You're on the
You
board.
probably could wonder if Sharon would take it.
Well, we gotta do some,
She's done, huh?
without Sharon being there to make up the agenda and getting that to us and everything else, is, you know, until we do get somebody, it's gonna make it a little harder. I would say if we could find someone in the office or.
Well, we have 2 people in the office. Sandy Smith said she would do it. Corinne is only part-time. She has a little child. Most of these meetings are at night. Those are our 2 choices.
Well, I would have no problem with either one.
Okay. So let's appoint Sandy Smith, because until we bring on, this may only be a part-time thing, a temporary, and if we get a new accounting person in here, that person may want to take it at that time. And this is just an appointment we can.
Because it's something, it's something that comes up when they go through all the statements and end of month bills and all this kind of stuff. There's always at least one guy, it's not here, who's always asking questions, you know, how is something figured, or why is it figured that way, why they do it this way? At that time, Sharon can answer them. And to get somebody from the office, it's fairly.
They should be able to answer those questions.
Right.
Correct. That's why I'm saying I think it should be her, so. With that, I guess, is that a motion then, Mr. Boda, that we appoint Sandy Smith as that person?
No,
for-
either one would be okay.
All
Which other board would think they'd like, I don't know. Corinne's would be all right.
Well, she's, you know, she has a little one at
Yeah,
at
I know she
night,
does,
so.
but
Can you appoint her temporary, and maybe somebody else might want it?
Well, we can always change the appointment at any time.
I'll support.
All right, it's been moved and supported that we appoint Sandy Smith to the Sewer and Water Authority as our representative. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, under old business, if you remember several meetings ago, we brought up that we needed a generator in the DPW. We got a 30 kW generator that Blaine got a price on. It'll actually pump, I believe, 7 of the 9 stations that we have. And, or was it 8 of the 9? One it won't pump, it's not big enough. So Ralph suggested that we get a price on the 45K, which we have now. We have one 45K.
45 will do them all.
It'll do everything. It makes more sense to get that.
Yep.
It's probably an extra, a little less than
$5,000.
$4,500 more. So I'm asking that we buy this generator for $37,937.50.
How come you only got the one bid though?
Well, he said this is the only one this is where we bought the other generator.
The only
These are
one
the
that-
people that service them. If you want me to get another bid, I can get another bid.
we bought from these people.
Well, maybe
before,
nobody
I know,
else
years
wanted to
ago.
bid on it.
Well, that's
I
what
don't
he
know.
said. It's hard to find out where you can buy these things at.
This
It's
will
up
give,
Very few.
this will give us 2 operations.
It'll give us 2 45s, yeah.
And that'll take care of everything.
Right, and the old one we got, it just quit, it won't do nothing now, it's just,
See, we
the motor runs, but it won't generate.
Because I know we
That
talked
one
about a
we bought-
45
that
and a
one
30
we bought
kW.
about 20-some years ago,
At least,
at least.
yeah. I mean, if you want me to get another bid, I can get another bid and we can but it's up to you.
If you're not in a hurry for it, well, maybe try
All
it,
right.
see if you could get another bid, maybe.
On a 45 KW?
Might save some money. If we don't, well, we'll go right back to this one.
All right.
But I noticed you had a bid in there for a 30, well, we won't need the 30.
No, we're just gonna buy the 45.
Not with the 45.
And it's, you're right, I mean, spending that kind of money, in our bidding policy, we should have a second bid.
Does it say anything in here how, I didn't see anything in here, but did anybody see how good this bid is good for?
He just gave it to me,
18.
yeah,
I didn't see any here on the length of
14th
time.
it came in. He got it on May 14th.
30 days.
30 days?
We're already.
Yep, 30 days, firm for
We're
30
already
So
days.
we're
past the
already
30
over it, huh?
days.
Yeah, okay. Then that makes sense, we get another quote.
Then we're in trouble.
Okay, so we'll table that again. Somebody want to make a motion to table that, or we'll just keep it on unfinished business? All
I'll make that motion, we table it.
right,
Support.
then move to support, we table till we get another, at least two bids, and this one is beyond the expiration date. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have announcements. The township office will be closed July 3rd, 2015 for the holiday, 4th of July holiday. Member comments, Mr. Horn.
I got one. West of the park, it's the first time I've seen it in a long time that they cut the grass all the way out to the township line, and it looks damn nice.
Where is this at?
Out on Recor Road. Whoever the guy is that cuts the grass here around the office has got that looking great out
Oh,
there.
that's Ed, yeah. Yeah, Ed does a great job.
That's the first time I've seen it that nice. I had one other one, but I forgot, it was slipped my mind what it
I
was.
don't know if you think of
You're all
it.
set.
Mr. Boda?
I really have nothing to say, thank you, except the fact that I'm glad to be back. Everybody's
Glad to have
scoring.
you back.
We're glad you're back.
Yeah, stay off them four-wheelers.
Well, yeah, you guys, yeah, remember that, stay off four-wheelers, especially when they carry you from a wheelchair to a four-wheeler. Not a good thing.
Shame on them guys that put you on it.
I haven't seen them since then.
All right, just, Graham?
No, the only thing I was gonna say, that I was glad Mr. Boda was back, that's it. He took care of that already.
Oh,
Blackshot?
The only thing I have is, I just want to give kudos to the parks, especially the manager, Deanna Slanik.
Yeah, she was a good
The
job.
last few weeks, I've gotten just comments on how great of a job she's doing, from both citizens as well as contractors that are working for her. They really, tell us that she's really putting her heart and soul into it. It's more than just a job, so we get a lot of compliments. So just want to say, very good job to the board and park manager and all the staff over there.
She does
And
a-
Blaine's working very well with her too. We're getting
Yes,
things done over
heard
there.
that.
We got the baseball fields, we got all that slag put on the infields and,
Yes, I've heard that relationship is doing very well. There's a lot of communication and it's working out very well.
He does a lot of stuff over there, and that makes it a whole lot easier for her and everybody involved.
Larry, I got one more. I forgot to, last time, to wish Sharon a good retirement.
yeah, that's what I was gonna- Yeah, as you know, Sharon retired Friday. Close to 35 years she was here at the township. She'll be greatly missed. I wish her a long and happy retirement. What's that?
I forgot I did have something I wanted
Oh,
to say.
okay. And so we wish Sharon the best, and we'll be having them come back in with a plaque. We'll give them something.
And I forgot one thing, I would like to wish both Mike from the water plant and Sharon both the best of retirement, long one, so.
If they give as long as me, why, they're all set.
So what did you have, Dee?
I just wanted to let people know, if nobody had noticed yet, that the Riverview East students and an Eagle Scout did a project, and all around the township, also Marine City and St. Clair, they put up the little mini libraries. They're on the walking path. There's one right here by the park. They have themes. You're welcome to go. There's there's videos, there's books, there's,
Just something to read.
stuff for literacy. You can get flyers for help with literacy. And I just want to say that they're just so cute. And if you have donations that you want, there's information who you can donate them, where you can actually put them in. But I understand the boxes. I know I've been in this one over here. It's so cute. But each of the box has a theme, so the books and things inside go along with whatever the theme is of that box. And I believe they did 12 or 15 of them, but they're
Mark
all.
said-
they
Mark
have
said
them-
they
It's just a
Pull one
box
over.
that sits out, I guess I haven't seen it.
They were
Right
in the
here, where
paper,
the-
it was in the newspaper.
Yeah,
They're right by the
there's a
bench.
nice write-up in the Times Herald.
Today,
and,
wasn't
Today or yesterday, I read it today online, but right here by the bench on the corner, the new bench, they put one right there, and there's, I was looking in that one, there's also one at, Bell River and
I was talking to Mark today and somebody
Meisner.
run over it.
somebody hit that one with their car, we're not real happy about that. They're,
He got the
apparently,
license.
Which one
did
did
they? The Bell River and Meisner one, they had to actually drive over the bike path to do it,
He got the license number.
did
so-
they? Okay, good.
Oh, good.
But I understand the box wasn't badly damaged and they're putting it back, but we were very sad about that. But please go by, help yourself to a book. There's kids' books, adult books, hardcover, paperback. They're just really cute, and I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we have a lot
People
of
knew about
problems
them.
with cars run, especially these telephone people riding on a bike path with them big trucks. And I see them every once in a while, and they shouldn't even be up there.
So that was all I had, just to make people aware
Okay.
of the mini libraries.
And the thing with Sharon's retirement too, it causes a vacancy in our office in here, and I'm working with Clerk D here. We gotta figure out how we're gonna replace Sharon and how we're gonna do it, but I think we gotta see where we're at, and what we got. We may be letting Corinne work a few more hours in the meantime. I don't know if I need a motion for that, or we
No,
just.
we already had her for more than she's working.
30 hours, I think we got her for. So she can work some more hours. But we got to see just what her capabilities are and what training she's going to need and how we're going to do it. We may have to get a CPA in here for a short time to get us all on track. We may have to have some training with BSNA, as you heard in the audit.
That's one thing I was gonna say too, the BSA, was Sharon the only one that didn't know how to use it?
No, she knew how to use it, but she just didn't use it to the full potential, I don't
Because
think.
maybe we need to have somebody come in with the office staff.
Right,
sit
and
down
that's
with
what
them
we're
and
gonna
say,
do.
this is how it works, this
Right.
is how you'll do it.
When we bought it, we were supposed to have a lot of
God,
instructions.
thousands of
I think it
dollars
was
was
6
spent for
months
that.
and nothing
Right.
happened.
There was training available, and there was training done here when we first got the system. All of it was not taught to everybody who needed it, and I believe we will be needing them to come in and do at the very least, a refresher on all the things that aren't being used, because there's so much that was
There's
not
got to
being
be new
used.
stuff too. you know.
Right, and there's updates and things like that, so I for sure would like them to come in. Once we, shake it loose and see who's gonna be doing what jobs, and then we want backup for all the positions. We don't wanna get in the position where we were before, where one person had to do it all, and so then we're stuck, nobody else knows how to do it. There should be backup for every position.
Well, it's just as expensive as that program is, but everybody should know how to use it.
Right,
Much
well,
money we
absolutely,
spend
and
on
it makes the job that much simpler if you use it to its full potential and have it do everything that it can do for you.
All right, I guess if that concludes everybody's comments, I guess a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll make that motion at 8:39.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we adjourn at 8:39. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.